What's up, Marvel fans? We're the Hills Maniacs, and if you're like us, you love going back and watching all the movies in the MCU again and again and again, and over again even more, because they're so much fun to watch. You know, they're filled with incredible moments and things like that. But have you ever sat back and thought about the one specific moment or scene from each of these movies that really stood out to you as like the best in the whole movie? Well, that's what we're here to talk about today as we discuss what we believe is the best moment from Iron Man. So, for me, I'd say the best moment from the first Iron Man movie was the whole scene at the whole beginning sequence where Tony Stark is captured by these terrorists, and they try to make him recreate his missiles, or just give them a weapon that they can use, against the Americans and everything else, because he's a weapons manufacturer and he has missiles and everything else. And when they capture him, he manages to escape by building, what essentially is the first Iron Man suit. And right. I thought it showed, I kind of thought this showed Tony's innovation, how innovative he is and creative and everything, where he can make it from a box of scraps, that he can
in a cave.
Yeah, that he can turn something or make something out of nothing. Essentially, they were basically feeding him the materials to make an Iron Man suit. He just randomly came up with this idea, I guess I'll make a suit of armor type thing with some rockets on it and things like that. And they didn't even catch on at first that he was building this instead of what they wanted him to build, because they wanted him to build a replica of one of his newer missiles that his company had created. But instead he built this. And I kind of feel like this also sort of played into the rest of the movie too, where he starts off as the selfish billionaire and stuff, but I mean, in this movie, he still kind of is selfish, but, his whole arc through the whole MCU, eventually he does realize he needs to help people, rather than being... I mean, he does save the whole universe by the end of, by Avengers Endgame and everything, but, I mean, he stays selfish in the sense that he realizes that if his weapons get in the wrong hands again, then that's a bad thing, so he doesn't tell anybody. This inspires him to go on and create the other Iron Man suits and keep it to himself, keep it secret. Only a few people know that he's, like Pepper Potts and Rhodey and everybody else.
At first.
Yes. At first, yeah, before he announced it, yeah. But I felt like this is really what kicked off his character, and even Yinsen being killed in the movie tells him, don't waste your life. I saved you. Now don't waste what don't waste your life.
I mean, and that gave it kind of the Captain America feel too, because that same thing happened with Dr. Erskine.
Yeah,
it was I created you, so now go do something good. And
I thought it was cool just to see him when he busts out of the cave. It's kind of like this hulking thing, big metal Hulk essentially, breaking out and destroying all the missiles and all the. It must have felt weird for him having to destroy his own missiles and stuff. But I like how this inspired the rest of the movie essentially, where he starts to, like I said, create the new suits and everything else. I thought this was really impactful to us learning who his character is, and the slow kind of build of his character throughout the MCU kind of kicked off with this whole thing in the cave.
And I mean, that scene there even showed basically how smart Tony really was.
Right.
Yes, he might have been this arrogant, billionaire, but at the same time, you think about it, he doesn't just have people that create his weapons for him. He too can create this kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So it gave you that kind of feel towards Tony and what he can actually do. And that is a good scene in the movie, but my favorite scene was close to the end, or right at the end, with the biggest reveal since Empire Strikes Back, that Vader was Luke's father, is that Tony Stark was Iron Man the entire time. No, I mean, it just gave you that, because he's just in a press conference just being Tony Stark, and then they're like, what, they ask him a question about, something about Iron Man or whatever, and he says, "I am Iron Man," and that gives you that feel like this is the MCU now. This is this is the character that we're supposed to remember. We're not supposed to remember him as the billionaire Tony Stark.
Right.
We're supposed to remember him as the hero Iron Man. And of course in Avengers Endgame that line comes back into play when he snaps his fingers to save the universe for the second time, technically saving the universe. But it was just one of those big impactful reveals. I mean, we already knew he was Iron Man.
Yeah.
But just like I could picture myself being in that crowd, like of reporters. And them
exactly.
And him saying, "I am Iron Man," and you're like, "Wait a second, you were the one in the Iron Man suit?" Like,
and I mean, and that is impactful too because it's different from traditional like superhero tropes. Where like no one knows who Spider-Man is.
Right.
You're not supposed to know who this like masked hero is.
Right.
And like immediately. The MCU or this throws like a whole wrench in like because pretty much everybody after this like everyone knows who Thor is and Captain America, they know him by name, Steve Rogers. They know Hulk is Bruce, but so this pretty much throws all that out the window of the whole masked hero thing. Except Spider-Man's the only one still in the MCU that like nobody actually knows his identity. But Tony Stark doing this like that basically kicks off the rest of the MCU. I mean, where we know who the heroes are.
And you look at the setup to it. They came in for the press conference about the Iron Man armor and the stuff that happened at Stark Industries, and they told him just follow the cue cards and don't mention that you are Iron Man, basically is what they told him. And being Tony Stark, he goes off the cue cards and tells everybody that he's Iron Man, which is exactly what they didn't want to happen. But, they do eventually, because in obviously the second and third one, that was a bad call saying that you were Iron Man. But at the same time, it built up this character of Iron Man
where he's arrogant enough to reveal to the world that he is Iron Man. So now everybody knows, okay, well, if I want to target Iron Man, I just got to kill Tony Stark.
Right.
But
at the same time, he may have been unsmart in revealing who he was, but he was also probably the smartest one in that room at the time when he said that, because he knew he would have a way to fend off anybody that tried to hurt him or his family or his friends or just attack the country. He knew he could fight against it with the Iron Man suit.
He had enough confidence and in himself to know that like who cares if I reveal who I am, like I'm this good where I don't need to hide behind it anymore.
And I mean, overconfidence is a bad thing, but
I guess you could look at it too as like he was just still being selfish. Like, I don't want to keep this a secret. I want everybody to know that I'm this robot person.
I mean, he becomes more famous if he tells everybody, because then people are like, they'll be talking about him as Iron Man forever, And
now he's
but then by the end of the MCU, by the end of his journey, he realizes that there was more to being Iron Man than just being Tony Stark. And it's kind of a double meaning too, because he really is Iron Man, but he's also saying that like he can't be beaten because he's the hero. Iron Man isn't the hero. Tony Stark is the hero behind the hero, and Iron Man is just the mask or the costume that he puts on. And so that's the one that people look up to.
So both these scenes that we discussed pretty much did, like, reveal, kind of give us a glimpse into who Tony Stark is.
Right.
Like, you see that he is selfish, but he's also selfish in a good way. So, like, he is both egotistical, but he also is a genius, and he has a reason for holding all this to himself and everything else. So there you go, guys. Those were what we thought were the best scenes from Iron Man. Let us know what you guys thought the best scene was down in the comments section. And be sure to like this video and subscribe for more. And if you're a Marvel fan, check out our channel next Saturday. We will be talking about The Incredible Hulk and what we thought the best scene from that movie was. So thank you for watching, everyone, and we will see you in the next one.
Bye, guys.
Subscribe.